Welcome to Lead Your Life, the podcast for people who are seeking harmony in business and in life. My name is Debbie Heiser, and I'm an inner mastery and business mindset coach and the chief igniter here at The Lit Up Life. I feel an urgency to help people let go of past messaging so that they can make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what they value most. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Straight from the corners of my mind is where I find my sanity. It's a place, another.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. I know I say this every time that I'm excited about my guests, so I need to come up with a different tagline here, but I am thrilled to have Violette on with us today. Violet is, I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she is someone that really uplifts and empowers women. And I'm going to let her tell her story and how she does that. But that's how I usually introduce my guests, is how I met her as I signed up for FemCity, which is her group. And she just, I don't know, Violet, you just interest me. You're always you just have this positive vibe about you. And I've been parts of groups before where the owner and founder kind of remove themselves. And you are very, I see the passion in you to help people, because one of the things that interested me about you and wanting to talk to you is you spend time with people, right? It's not just sign up for my group and, oh, you're going to be out here with everybody else. I mean, there's things, right? They go to live events. Some of us are virtual because we don't have a FemCity in our town, but I want to talk about that as we get into this, but I'm going to let you introduce yourself to the listeners and watchers, and we're going to go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for all that love. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for the invitation. And the best compliment I can ever receive is that people feel my energy and my love through the work that I do. So that really touched my heart so much. And I appreciate that. That's the ultimate compliment. So I'm the founder of FemCity, and FemCity helps women launch businesses, grow businesses, up-level their careers, and live a happier life. So we do online curriculum, we do local events, we do retreats, as you mentioned, and really our passion is seeing women thrive, grow, and gain more money in their pocket, but doing so from the state of feminine energy, which means more gratitude, more empathy for others, being inclusive, and really collectively realizing that as one rises, we all rise together. So it's important for us to cheer each other on and to look back and say, okay, I've made it a little bit further up the ladder. Let me look to see who I can pull up with me and help those sisters that are looking to also up level.
Yeah, I just love that, because in this world, I mean, I know some of your history and I might ask you to share a little bit of that, but coming from a more corporate background, I always found, and I know there's the lean out, the lean in, and beyond the lean in books that are out there and kind of talk to all of that. But what I found is that in corporate, I had to stay in my masculine energy a lot. And if I showed any kind of feminine energy, that usually was taken negatively. Now that's changed. That was back in the 90s, right? In early 2000s. And that's somewhat changed, but not completely. And so I know for me, I felt very out of touch with my feminine and leading in my feminine. And so when you have, what was the precipice that started this for you? Because I know you had some corporate background too in marketing, I believe it was. And so what was it for you that kind of flipped a switch that said, I want to help women? And I guess part of why I'm bringing that up is I remember women tearing each other down in corporate versus supporting each other, which is kind of where I was going. And sorry, I kind of meandered back there. But so I'd like to know kind of what was that switch for you that said, I want to do something that uplifts women and does that, where we're mentoring each other, we're helping each other on the journey up.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I was listening to you ask me that question, and I was thinking, when was the first time I kind of separated the masculine energy and the feminine energy when it came to a corporate environment? And my first memory of that was in college. I was looking to go to law school, and I got an amazing opportunity to be an intern with Janet Reno. Janet Reno was here in Florida, of course, before she moved on to the federal position. And I remember my final interview when they offered me the internship. They said, you have to wear a blue suit every time you come to the office for your internship. It's in downtown Miami. blue, navy blue suit, black suit. You must, if you're wearing a skirt, it has to be so long. And this, and granted, that's a different time. It was like 1991, maybe. And I remember that time hearing that and thinking, that is so not me. Like, that's just so not my vibe. And I ended up turning down the internship. It just didn't feel at the time a good connection. And it wasn't until I got back into the corporate environment, which I only did a little bit of a time, like probably a couple of years total. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart, realizing that things don't have to be the way that I thought they were always going to be. Like, as an example, when you go into a feminine energy kind of networking, it's more about the relationship building. It's about nurturing. It's about showing your empathy, showing your vulnerability. And I wish that men did more of that. It's not to say that we only have that and they cannot. They do. They have the capabilities of doing that. But for some reason, it is more natural for women. And that was really the first time that I realized that we could do things a little bit different and still be successful and still make a lot of money and still live a life of balance, but yet embracing these things that make us so unique and different. And then showcasing that and sharing with other women, like, this is the way you can show up the way you want to show up, with love on your sleeve, with a heart-focused approach when it comes to growing your wealth or your business. But that was like the first, and I probably lost the question that you asked me, but I was like, I went down this whole rabbit hole because I was like, when did I really start thinking about like the difference? But that was the first memory that I just remember, like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I cannot, put on a blue suit every single day. Like, it's just not who I am.
And I'm so thankful that we don't wear pantyhose anymore. I
Exactly.
was in that era too of wearing suits and pantyhose. It didn't matter what color my suit was. But okay, so when you think about, and I didn't realize, I was thinking you had some agency experience. So, I mean, you did, but you have been an entrepreneur. So give us like a little summary of your background history, and then what made you decide to start this group?
Yeah. So my first business, I was 22 years old. I had just had my son, Christoph, who's going to be 30. And I did not want to have him in full-time daycare, which is the way that I was raised. And I wanted to do things different. And so for me, that meant owning my own business. As a first generation Cuban American, really the stories that I heard growing up were of families that had to leave Cuba because of the revolution, had to come to a new country, new culture, new language, and really created success through entrepreneurship. So the only stories I heard growing up were really those that worked very hard and created success through entrepreneurship, like buying a Shell station. I had one of my best friends, her uncle swam from Cuba to Miami and went on to buy a bunch of Shell station franchises, like all up and down Miami. And so those are the stories that I heard. So I knew at this time, well, if I want to do something and I want to work my own hours and I want to create great success and wealth, I'm going to do it on my own. So I started my personal training business. I put everything on a Discover credit card. They are not sponsors of me. I'm not getting paid to say that, but I had a $3,000 limit, and I bought equipment. I got my certification. And I started doing at-home training. And then eventually I did a little bit of time in real estate. My stepfather owned a real estate company and he wanted me to take over his business. So I did a little bit of new home sales. Then I went back into marketing. And then I got the itch again. And I started my Pilates studio. So I got certified in Pilates after a back injury and ran that for about 10 years. Had one location, then moved to a bigger location, then had satellite locations. And then I thought about franchising it. I said, let me go ahead and franchise this Pilates studio. And I worked with one of my students who was a franchise attorney. And we sat there and we kind of noodled on how that would look to franchise this Pilates studio. But I couldn't figure out how to make it work. I had created the business was a hobby business that became something that provided financially for my family, but it was hard to backtrack and make it scalable, make it so it's streamlined. Everyone wanted to take classes with Violet. And even though it was not the Violet show and I didn't have the logo, Violet Studio, it was just not set up to be successful, at least with what the information I had at the time. So fast forward, I moved back home to Miami. I worked at the Four Seasons doing the marketing PR for their club and spa, got the itch again, started my own PR agency. I wanted to do something that was going to impact my community. I'm in love with my city, lived here, grew up here, moved back. And so I started a PR agency that worked really with environmental initiatives. And that led me into holding two different positions at the mayor's office, a senior advisor for two different mayors, and really kind of themed around sustainability, environmental initiatives. So then I lend into being the publicist for World Wildlife Fund for the American and Latin American markets. and went on, like did, Everglades Foundation. I did their Wikipedia. So I had a really thriving PR agency. I loved it. And then FemCity was something that I wanted to do on the side for fun. I was craving sisterhood. I was going to all these networking events. I wasn't finding the vibe that I was looking for. And I was like, I'm just going to start something really small, 20 women. We'll meet once a month. We'll just be there to like help each other. And that was really the intention of FemCity. So like what it is now, I never envisioned in those initial couple of months of starting FemCity, Miami, I never envisioned it to be what it is today. Absolutely not.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about a couple of things there. First, we need to get you to North Idaho with your love of the outdoors. It's a little different than Miami, but we need to get you into the wilderness too. So
I don't do well with the cold. I like really hot weather. Summer.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah. Need to have you here so we can take you sailing, kayaking.
Oh, I would love that.
And stuff. So, but with that too, you talked about like how your vision started as one thing and then it started to morph. So tell us a little bit, like weave the story for us around what FemCity is today. And when you started out with that vision, like how it just took off. Because what I find, let me back up here, because what I find is that when people have these ideas and they have a passion for it, it's universal law, cause and effect. You did the things that then created the effect that you hadn't even completely envisioned, but it just took off, right? And that's that law of attraction too. So tell us a little bit about that story, how that happened.
So, and I wrote down the word universal, as you said, the word universal. So I am going to share it in the most rawest form because I know you're also very spiritual. So for me, FemCity, when I started FemCity, we had no website, no membership, had no idea like what, it was just for fun. And my son got me on a new platform at the time called Facebook, and we were putting pictures up there. And back in the day, remember we used to put like every picture, like we had 200 pictures, we put like 200 pictures in that album. So we were posting every single picture, even like the really, not the ones that we should have been putting out. And I had friends that started asking me through Facebook, hey, who do I talk to about starting one of these chapters in my community? It looks so cool. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're just getting together for lunch. Like you could just invite friends to lunch. Like there's nothing to it. And so the lesson there is people saw what I was creating before I saw it. So I kind of ignored that. And then we had a beautiful lunch here at the Ritz-Carlton in Miami. And a good friend of mine, Boo Zamek, was the lead speaker. She's really well known in Miami. And I had a woman come up to me and go, okay, so I drive from Fort Lauderdale every month. It's not fair that I have to drive here and your events are always sold out and you're being selfish for not starting FemCity in my community. And at the time I was 3 kids, 3 different schools. I sat on 6 different boards. I was raising a ton of money for charities. I had my own full-time PR, environment organization, agency. And I was also starting FemCity. So I was like, no one had ever called me selfish. But it hit me. So that's like the second message from the universe is that I was doing something that I really didn't recognize what I was doing. For me, it was like, everyone has this. And then the third one was, as the universe always works out, the next day, like 10 or 15 people asked for FemCity. And I just thought, what, there's something here. Like the universe was hitting me on the head and saying, you need to recognize what's going on. My company was doing really well financially. And I thought, let me just look into FemCity and see like, how could I create this to be scalable? I'm obviously a great entrepreneur. I know how to start a business. I know how to do 1 location, maybe 2 or 3. This would be a little bit different. I definitely want to create it so it's not the Violette show, that it's about other people. And so that's where that lesson about like where I thought my Pilates studio was a failure because I wasn't able to take it on and scale it and franchise it. I took those lessons and applied it to FemCity and created a very scalable model where our presidents were the face of that chapter. They were the ones getting to newspapers and magazines and TV shows. And we're leveraging it to help their business grow and thrive and also making a difference in the community. So it was really 3 signals from above. It was not like, oh, I already see this. Like it was literally just thrown in my face. And I started releasing all the contracts I had with my PR agency. I just started allowing the contracts to end. Many of them were 1-year contracts. The mayor's office, that one ended. I ran some political campaigns also. Those all ended. So it was very, it was smooth because I just trusted the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was smooth. Like I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was going because I was just following this intuition.
Yeah, and Violet, I think that's a really important component, right, of flow. Like you listened, and it was funny because I work off of the rule of three, right? Like anytime I
Yeah,
have
me
like
too.
messages, it's like that I need to pay
Got
attention.
to do it. Yep.
Right. But then also this idea of that it's not always easy, right? Like I have an easy button that I keep as a reminder that it can be just that easy, but it's complex, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not always easy when you're doing it because it requires you to take inspired action. And but to your point, you felt a peace about it, right? Like that's the flow. Like it came together and it just started to work. And I love how you are promoting other people in their leadership, right? Because leadership's also part of my jam. And so like doing this to help other women step up and lead where they may not have thought that they would have ever done that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't so I love that you brought that up because it looks easy from the outside. But what most people don't recognize is like I put in a lot of my own money to start FemCity. And I spent probably 2 years of not paying myself. So the money would go back into the organization to continue to thrive and grow. And so there are all these times where, I mean, during the pandemic, we had to shut down 200 events overnight. It hit, and we had so many chapters that we had to close. And so it has not been easy, but you stay in the flow, connected to the service it provides, connected to the alignment, the way that you want to show up in the world, your talents, your skills, the idea that every action helps others improve
Yeah.
their lives, staying connected to that. So it definitely wasn't like, oh yeah, like here I am, here's $1 million. I'm just going to put it in there and it's just going to make it was rough. I mean, but staying to the core of being in that flow, knowing that I was doing the right thing. I mean, I had to pull my kids out of private school. I had to sell my beautiful Mercedes that I loved. Sold that, got myself a Fiat. I hunkered down. I was like, okay, we're hunkering down because I believe in this. We're gonna remove some of these things. So tough decisions, but yeah, I'm so happy that I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I continued.
Yeah. And what I hear you saying there is that the universe is always for us.
Right.
Right. So even though having to hunker down or feeling like you needed to kind of scale back as a good steward to try to make this go forward, it's not that you didn't have faith that it would come back and that you could repurchase the Mercedes that you love so
Correct.
much. It was more about being that good steward, figuring out where you wanted to go with this, and then having faith. Because part of my definition of faith, like, and for those of you listening, don't get caught up in semantics. I mean, I have a very strong faith, but I'm talking about faith, meaning that you're given these messages, right? You're given the message because that law of transmutational energy, it wants to come together in form. But what happens is it doesn't come together in form without inspired action. And so that's part of that inspired action is taking and putting together, removing the obstacles and putting together the path to move forward. Let's face it, sometimes as an entrepreneur and a business leader, we need some guidance, support, and community. So we here at The Lit Up Life have 3 ways that you can work with us in order to achieve that. As a private client, we work together to quantum leap your business by discovering strategies to help you move past what's holding you back and allow you to identify what you want your life to look like. The result? Your business becomes the conduit to the lifestyle, success, and impact that you intend. Now, I'm a huge believer in the power of collaboration. So in our community masterminds, you can join in with other high vibrational business owners who want to level up, increase impact, and financial gain, all with a tribe of other women to support and encourage you on your journey. Currently, we're accepting application for this women's mastermind group, which is a year-long program for women in business who are ready for that next level of success. We create deep personal awareness in a safe and supportive space where you can experience growth with others who are on that same path. Through weekly sessions with our program coaches, teachings that go beyond the buzzwords, and immersive retreats in places like Mexico, the Dominican Republic, or Belize, we work together to create long-term abundance and lasting impact in your life and business. The last and final way to get involved with us is our group coaching programs. They provide the opportunity for teaching, masterminding, and feeling like you aren't alone on this ride. Come join us. What do you love about FemCity?
I love about FemCity that these women are creating lifelong relationships with each other, and they're cheering each other on. I spent today some time with our founder circle members doing like testimonial videos, and it was so great to hear, I interviewed them and hearing how FemCity impacted their lives, how they've, made best friends, how they've made so much money, how they've grown their brand around the world, international bestselling authors. That is so amazing that our presidents in all those local communities have brought women together, have instilled that energy that we're all in it together, that not one person's not better than the other person. We're all great. We're all fabulous. We all have challenges. We should be there for each other. I mean, it's just remarkable the power that women have when they come together and they're aligned and they support each other. We sometimes get emails from people that are like, my husband told me to cancel, so I'm canceling my membership. I mean, so we do get that. And we sometimes get women that cry at our events, whether it's locally or online in the virtual networking, that cry and say, I've never felt this much support and love in my entire life. That's the reason that I keep on doing what I do. And that's really my favorite part. The classes are great. Yeah. The events that we do are fantastic. Yeah. Going to Spain, fabulous. Really the core though, the one thing is that these women forever are connected and they've helped each other rise in so many ways.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. And so Violet, kind of in that same route of like this conversation around that it's not always easy, there's complexities, and not just like coming up with FemCity, but when you look back at your entire career of entrepreneurship and working in different agencies or different places, right? 4 seasons. When you look at that, what would you say? Like if you could say, here's 3 things that I learned that if I could go back and tell my younger self, what would those 3 things be?
Worry less, have more faith, and it will always work out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. And so can you also share with us, when you think back, what's been, and it may be current, it may have been during COVID, I don't know, but what has been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced, and how did you remove those obstacles to move forward?
I think the pandemic was the hardest one. I mean, we even had, when the pandemic happened and we had to close so many chapters, so many Canadian chapters specifically, and just events. I mean, we're known for our events. If we can't do events in real life, how are we going to do events? And Zoom now is like an everyday thing for us. But at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a lot of members that had never heard of Zoom, couldn't get on Zoom, didn't want to meet digitally. They really wanted hugs. They wanted to see humans face to face. So I really didn't think we'd make it through, honestly. And it got to a point where a lot of the chambers that we work with and a lot of women organizations that we work with, even some competitors, we reached out to them and we said, hey, we know that you guys are struggling. We'd like to offer you free memberships. I mean, we were giving away memberships to help other chambers make it through, adding it as a value added to their membership, to different women organizations too. There was one in Canada that was a huge women organization. And I had heard through one of our members that they were closing, and it made me sad, even though it was a competitor of ours in the traditional sense. It made me really sad. And I want to make sure that they would survive, because we need more and more women organizations. And reaching out to them, and she was done. She was like, I'm out. I'm tired. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm out. So it didn't matter what we gave or how we helped or how we served. So I really started every month, when you see your friends, your colleagues, your allies, your competitors, and they're all starting to close shop, you're like, wow, it's just around the corner that, are we going to make it through? And right. Yeah, I can't believe we did. And what we did is we turned around and said, okay, if we're going to go out, if we only have like a couple of months left, because everyone was canceling, people were asking for refunds like from 3 years ago. It was insane. I was like, well, we're going to go out serving as many women as we can. So we were just giving out, and I was doing classes every day. I was doing like my book. I brought my book out and I gave it away for free. And I did like book clubs, and I did whatever I could to serve, because I felt like we just needed to be there and hold a space for them, because they were panicking. We couldn't be panicking too. We had to hold that space for them. And we did. And holding that space for them made it so that we thrived and we grew. And it wasn't the same growth. I mean, our growth before was like this, was like a little wonky. It wasn't a 45-degree angle or 90. It was like a little bump here, and then a little low. Oh yeah. We went like this at the beginning too. That's why I was like, okay, how much longer can we go, completely downward? But I think that was the scariest And again, I think we would have been fine, but that was the moment where I was like, wow, all I've worked for all these years to end like this is just, that's gonna stink. But it worked out. Again, going back to those tips, it worked out.
And what a great example of the law of abundance, right? Because the
Yeah,
first law of abundance is in giving you shall receive, right? And
right.
you don't do it in a manipulative way. That's not the point of that. But like when you give, it comes back to you twofold. I mean, you hear that all the time, right? When you go and serve, I'm always, when I go and serve in some capacity or another, my life is always more enriched
Yeah.
with that. So, and that's kind of what I hear you say. Now, did you have a team that you kind of helped pull this together and shift kind of how you were doing it, or was it you and I think you have an ops manager, I believe? Yeah.
Yeah, so myself, Lynn, who's our COO, I think her role at the time was, I think she was one of our directors. I can't remember what her title was, but we moved her up to COO. And then we have Kyra, who is like a marketing, our marketing person, our liaison with membership. I mean, she holds so many hats as well. We had Sada in Spain. She was our intern for summer, and we ended up hiring her. So she was doing our social media. So it wasn't all on me. I mean, all of our presidents also, it was a team working together. I think probably I was probably the only one that knew like how dire the situation was, but I didn't want to share that. I didn't want to, like why share that? We're just going to run it until it until
Right.
it just fizzles out, and then it worked out. So
That's so fantastic. And it's so interesting when you say that about wearing many hats. My team and I, we joke, not from a workload perspective, but like there's 57 of us, but there's really three, right?
yeah,
Like, and how much you can get done when you're not like, I spent 20 years in corporate. And so when you're not like contained within this container of this is all you can do, you can like do so much more. And that's what I hear like with the team collaboration piece of it. Okay. So you mentioned a book. Tell us about the book.
and I will let me add what you were saying about the running lean, because you run lean too. So it's funny, like we run lean, the three of us pretty much running everything, and we sometimes get people like we had a member last Friday. She emailed Kyra. It was Friday night, wanting to know about her membership and like when it renews and when it doesn't. And then she got really upset that Saturday no one responded to her. So people think we're huge. People think we have 57, 100 people. And I'm like, we are three people. And we, on the weekends, we have family and we want to like, I'm a huge believer in working 4 days a week. So we have it on our signature now and we have it everywhere because I'm like, wow, people really think we're huge, but it's just us three. Like, be nice. Give us some time. All right. So the book. So I wrote two books. The first one, Self-Guided Guru, life lessons for the everyday human. That was 10 chapters of my life. I broke it down into short stories, and then also with a worksheet. I'm a huge fan of like self diving in, working on your stuff. So there were lessons that I learned in my life, and I go through, love and wealth and like all these like 10 topics. And then the second one is FemCity's Money Guide. It's a class that I've been teaching for so many years, and I've been teaching people how to create their own money guide. And then I was like, I should create it for them. So I created a money guide for our members, and that is something that I gave away for free. Like I was like, okay, let's just give it away, and I'll just email you the PDF if you don't have the $10 to buy it. So those are the two books. The first one was an international best-selling book. The second one, honestly, Debbie, I was like, I just need to get it out there. I didn't even, our team, our community bought it, but it was not, I never promoted it because it was just for us to use internally and have Amazon house it and ship it out.
Yeah. Okay. I'm anxious to read the Self-Guided Guru. I'm going to have to look that up. Can you find it on Amazon?
Yeah. Amazon, Walmart, wherever. Yeah.
Wherever books are sold. I love that.
Wherever books are sold.
Okay. So I got to finish with my favorite two questions. Other than your two books, what's the best book that you've read in the last year that you would recommend?
10 times is faster than 2 times. Best book.
Yeah.
Such a great one.
And then if we were to go out, I used to, like to remember the days of iPods. I always want to say, if we were to go out and look at your iPod, but if we were to go out to your platform, whatever music platform you listen to music on, what would be your number one played song?
My Walkman, you mean?
Yeah.
My cassette player. I'm a little obsessed with Paul Russell right now, like really obsessed. So my Spotify has a Paul Russell radio, and so does my car and Pandora. My second one, not that you asked your second one, but I think the first one, I mean, Paul Russell's amazing, just makes me happy. The second one, Madeline Pierrot, I think I said her name wrong. It's kind of French jazzy. I like more of like the vintage stuff like Ella Fitzgerald, Etta James, that kind of vibe too. So like, you know, pink martini music, as they
Oh, I
say.
love Pink Martini. They've been here. We have a big music festival here 2 weekends in a row, and they've been here numerous times. So,
Yeah.
I like them. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny when you say that kind of Parisian French
Yeah.
jazz. My my wake up alarm on my phone is a song called I Want to Wake Up in Paris, and it's kind of a jazzy song. So I gotta start
I love
giggling.
it. Even all my Instagram reels, for the most part, I really try to do like French, Italian, and I tell my kids all the time, like I was definitely born in the wrong era of music. Like even my house is like very 1920s. It's a 100-year-old Spanish design house, and I'm just like I'm in the wrong generation. Like the hats, oh my gosh, like and the dresses and the gloves. Like I just want to, I just so want to dress in that era.
Yeah, that would be fun to have an event like in that era and come
Yeah,
in costume, right? Yeah, that's
exactly, exactly.
well, Violet, if somebody wants to learn more about you, understand and learn more about FemCity, and we'll put this in the show notes as well, where would you send them?
So for FemCity, head over to femcity.com, and for me, you can head over to violetteayala.com.
Perfect. I so appreciate you being here today, and thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
you in this world. And I know I enjoy being there, and I'm somewhat glad, although I think I might have one more day of skiing, but I'm kind of glad that ski season's over, so I can now start to attend more of the events. So
Oh,
check it
love that.
out. Go out to femcity.com and check out Violet as well. And with that, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Come right.
That's a wrap for this conversation. I'm so glad you've joined us. Remember to subscribe to the podcast so you can catch all of our future episodes, and visit us at thelituplife.com for details on how you can become part of the Lit Up Life community. A quick shout out to my friend Jackie Wilson and her friends, the creators of our amazing theme music. Thanks so much for allowing us to share this perfect song with our listeners. Looking forward to having you listen in to our next episode.
You know that we need it. See the colors of the rain. Find your own kind of happy. See the colors of